I want to start by reminding you guys of May 11th, 2017. So on May 11th, 2017 was the day that the Rockets were bounced from the playoffs by the San Antonio Spurs. They were eliminated in 6 games. They were not eliminated by the Golden State Warriors. Last year in the NBA playoffs, the Houston Rockets were eliminated by the San Antonio Spurs. And if you remember, go back, remember, James Harden appeared to quit in Game 6. Then this offseason, after that loss to the Spurs, this offseason, the Houston Rockets traded for point guard Chris Paul. The Rockets acquired Chris Paul. Now, in today's world, in the present day, tomorrow night, the Houston Rockets will play Game 7 against the Golden State Warriors for the Western Conference Championship. If they win, they're in the finals. They took the Warriors all the way to Game 7. So what changed? What made the Houston Rockets so much better? What took them from losing? Last year they lost to the Spurs. This year, they're competing toe-to-toe with the Golden State Warriors. What did they change? They added Chris Paul. And now they're able to compete with the Golden State Warriors. So how come every time I look up most valuable player, all I get is James Harden? I have always defined most valuable player the exact same way. The most valuable thing in this room is my computer. It's not the camera. It's not the lights. It's not this really nice mic. I can do the show without all of those things. I could use my iPhone and a computer, but I need to have my computer. I cannot record a podcast without my computer. I can do it with everything else, but my computer is necessary for the process. My computer, even though it's not the most expensive, even though it's not the flashiest or the nicest looking, my computer is the most valuable thing in this room for this podcast. So how come James Harden is considered the most valuable player? James Harden cannot beat the Warriors. We've seen this over and over again. Year in, year out, James Harden could not beat the Warriors. But then you add Chris Paul. Not only were the Rockets able to win some games against the Warriors, they went from the 3rd seed in the NBA Western Conference to the best record in the NBA. Look back. If you look back, we've seen this before. Again, I repeat, the Rockets have never been able to beat the Warriors consistently without Chris Paul. Before Chris Paul came there, in the last 2 years, before adding Chris Paul to the Rockets are 2-10 versus the Warriors. They could not beat the Warriors, and then they added Chris Paul. The 2 games they won. I say they couldn't beat them. They beat them twice, but it was really close. They won in double overtime in December, and then they won once in Game 3 of a 5-game series. That's the only 2 times James Harden and the Rockets, without Chris Paul, were able to beat the Warriors. My point is twofold. First of all, when the Rockets play the Warriors in Game 7 tomorrow night, first, there's no way the Rockets will be able to win Game 7 against the Warriors without Chris Paul. But my second point is this. Should we not re-examine, is James Harden actually the most valuable player in the NBA? Because it would appear he's not even the most valuable player on his own team. See, the reason why they're so good is they added Chris Paul. I'm gonna look back, and I know this argument will make everybody mad. Everybody's like, well, James Harden's a better player. They're screaming, they're angry. Hear me out. I went to hoopstats.com. This season, James Harden has shot less than 40% 8 times. James Harden's 8 worst games, he shot less than 40%. When James Harden has a bad game, when he shoots less than 40%, James Harden, again, his worst 8 games this year, the Rockets are 7-1. The Rockets are 7-1 when James Harden has his 8 worst night shooting of the year. That includes May 24 in the playoffs versus Golden State, Game 5. Guess what? The Rockets still won. The Rockets still beat Golden State, even with James Harden having a bad game. In Game 5 of the playoffs, James Harden shot 23%. He was 0 for 11 from three-point range. And yet his team still beat a dynasty, the Golden State Warriors, 98-94. And I think it's worth questioning the value of James Harden. If you can have a really bad night shooting and your team still wins, How important are you to your team winning? I repeat, what changed this season when the Rockets suddenly got way better? When the Rockets got tremendously better, what changed? They added Chris Paul. So you can make an argument, maybe not a strong argument, but an argument. Hey, maybe Chris Paul is more valuable than James Harden. And that would make James Harden not even the most valuable player on his own team. Last season, the Rockets had 55 wins. And the LA Clippers, who had Chris Paul, had 51 wins. So this season, the Rockets add Chris Paul. The Clippers lose Chris Paul. The Rockets win 65 games. The Clippers only win 42. That is a 23-game swing. So you could argue, hey, maybe Chris Paul is worth 23 more wins. Chris Paul moved the Rockets again from the 3 seed in the NBA Western Conference to the best record in the NBA. Now, it's interesting. Let's take a look at LeBron James. Look at LeBron James. LeBron James only shot under 40% 4 times this year, and it was not much lower than 40%. James Harden's worst night shooting was 11%. LeBron James' worst night shooting was 31%. That's ridiculous. So when LeBron James shot less than 40%, he only did this 4 times. When he shot less than 40%, his team is 1-3. And in fact, in LeBron James' 10 worst games, the Cleveland Cavaliers are 3-7. LeBron James' team cannot win without him playing well. If LeBron James doesn't play well, his team doesn't win. And it's so funny to me that James Harden's team can win when James Harden doesn't play well, yet LeBron James' team cannot win when he plays well. But what's even more funny is that LeBron's bad performances, quote-unquote bad performances, LeBron James's bad games are good nights for a lot of NBA players. LeBron James never once shot under 30%, something that James Harden did 3 times last year. Not 1, not 2, but James Harden shot under 30% 3 times this year. Harden's worst night, I repeat, was 11%. That is awful. That's atrocious. LeBron James' worst night, 31%. His team lost. And it's so funny to me that I just don't understand how people cannot understand this. LeBron James is more valuable than James Harden. If LeBron James doesn't play well, his team can't win. And he can't even play poorly. James Harden's team won when he shot 23%, when he shot 11%. His team still won. If LeBron James had an 11% night shooting, his team would lose by 60 points. LeBron James has 2 players on his team. So let's talk about help. LeBron James does not have a lot of help. LeBron James has 2 players on his team averaging more than 10 points this season. He has the quote-unquote all-star Kevin Love. Kevin Love is only averaging 13 points. He does lead the team in rebounds. That's the only thing he seems to be able to do. And the other person who's averaging double digits for the Cavaliers is 37-year-old Kyle Korver. Yes, the washed-up old. I love Kyle Korver. He's great. He's an awesome dude. He's not what he used to be. He's 37 years old. He's the only other player averaging double figures, and he's only averaging 10.2 points. He's barely averaging double figures. So in contrast, look at the Rockets and James Harden. James Harden has 3 teammates averaging over 10 points. 3 teammates for James Harden are averaging double figures. That's 4 total players. Chris Paul's averaging 21. Oh, you think LeBron James would like another player that could score 21 points? He doesn't have it. Eric Gordon averages 15 points, and Clint Capella averages 12 points. So James Harden has a better team that can win without him. And you want to call him the most valuable player. I repeat, it's possible James Harden is not the most valuable player on his team, but even if he is, even if James Harden is the best player on the best team, having the best team matters. It means you're not as valuable as LeBron James is. So what that you play on the best team? LeBron James is more important to his team. LeBron James's team, the Cavaliers cannot win without a good performance from LeBron James. So let's look at their stats head to head. Let's compare LeBron James and James Harden and their stats head to head. First off, right off the bat, the most important thing I see is that LeBron James played all 82 games this year. Availability matters. You may not agree with that, but LeBron James played 82 games this year. James Harden took 10 games off. He had a little hamstring injury. He missed 10 games. And that will somewhat skew the stats, but I'll look at averages as well to make sure I account for that. So it's interesting. LeBron James has a better shooting percentage than James Harden. He shoots 54%. LeBron James shoots 54%. If you round up to help James Harden's shooting percentage is 45%. Now you can also, LeBron James scores the rim more. That makes sense, right? So what about when they're shooting from farther away from the basket? Look at their three-point percentage. James Harden, you would think, well, I understand he does not score at the rim as much as LeBron James, so maybe his shooting percentage is down from LeBron James. Well, surely, without a doubt, of course, James Harden would have a better three-point percentage than LeBron James, right? Right? He's a better shooter. That would make sense. No, they're tied. They have exactly the same three-point percentage. James Harden is shooting 36.7%. It is so weird to me that LeBron James is also shooting 36.7%. That's absurd. That's kind of weird, actually. LeBron James has more assists by 100. He has more rebounds by 400, 709 to 389. And he has 2,251 points versus James Harden, 2,191 points. The total stats goes to LeBron James, but hey, I understand. James Harden missed 10 games. So let's look at their averages. That matters too. LeBron James averages 8 assists a game to about the same number with James Harden. He averages more rebounds a game, 9 versus 5. The only statistical category, the only one, there's only one, maybe two, you can talk about free throw percentage if you want. Other than free throw percentage, the only statistical category that James Harden leads LeBron James in is points per game. James Harden has 30 points per game. LeBron James has 27.5. So look, you're going to give the MVP to James Harden, who's not as important to his team, who only leads in one statistical category. He has 3 more points per game. Okay. The Rockets can win a game when James Harden plays poorly. If LeBron James has a bad game, the Cavaliers lose by 40 points. It's not even close. LeBron James is the most valuable player in the NBA, and I do not know how you can argue with that. He's not going to win. LeBron James is not going to win the MVP, but that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Every year, we acknowledge he's the best player in the world. His team needs him. But, we're bored with talking about LeBron James. Let's go give it to the new, fun, exciting thing, which is James Harden. We did it last year with Russell Westbrook. We're doing it again this year with James Harden, and it is such an annoying tragedy. I really think part of this is people don't want to give LeBron James more recognition. They're like, you know what? Michael Jordan has a ton of records. We don't want to give... I think people are biased to LeBron James because they don't want it to hurt Michael Jordan. They're protecting Michael Jordan by not giving LeBron James records and achievements that he deserves. LeBron James is the most valuable player in the NBA. And yet, we're not going to give it to him? And they did the same thing. Not only I think they're trying to protect Michael Jordan, to some degree, they even did this to Michael Jordan. For every year Michael Jordan was in the league, he was the best, most valuable player in the league. Can we agree on that? Whether you hate LeBron, you like LeBron, we can all agree Michael Jordan was the best player in the league every year. And yet he didn't come close to winning an MVP every year. The most valuable player is the stupidest award in the National Basketball Association. LeBron James is, without a shadow of a doubt, the most valuable player in the NBA right now. The only thing I'll say is this. The last thing I'll leave you with on this argument is people will say, well, LeBron James has Kevin Love. The reason why LeBron James does not deserve the most valuable player is because he has tons of help. He built this team. He has Kevin Love. Kevin Love should help him. He's an all-star. Kevin Love is averaging 13 points a game. The all-star, the great player that LeBron James plays with, is only averaging 13 points a game. That's LeBron James' best help is Kevin Love. 13 points a game. Oh, and by the way, Kevin Love, he was hurt most of the year. Like a large portion of this year, he hurt his leg, he hurt his thumb. Now he's out right now. He's missing Game 7 with a concussion. Come on, guys. I'm so sick of the arguments that LeBron James should not be the most valuable player in the league. LeBron James, without a shadow of a doubt, is the most valuable player in the entire NBA. Case and point, I'm done with it. I move on. Game 7 will not change my mind. Whether LeBron James loses to the Celtics or he wins, that's not what this argument's based on. I'm recording before Game 7 of the Cavs and Celtics. Without a shadow of a doubt, LeBron James is the most valuable player in the NBA. Thank you for watching this video. Remember, if you like it, you can subscribe to Strong Opinion Sports on iTunes, on SoundCloud, and on YouTube. You can find the full entire hour-long podcast on YouTube. And if you really like this podcast, help me grow Strong Opinion Sports by telling your friends about the show on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever it is. Help me grow Strong Opinion Sports by telling your friends about this show.